Man, seriously, who would have thought that Meredith would be so freaking useful right now? She is so amazing. And like I said in the previous video, her third skill is extremely broken. So Hand of Scylla, I'm just going to repeat myself a little bit because some of you guys might be watching this for the first time, right? So Hand of Scylla, it has 3 different buffs, which is going to be very important for today's showcase. So attacks one enemy, reduces their max HP by 30%, up to 50% of her max HP. Now, if the target's HP is greater than 80%, ability cooldown will then be reduced by 1 turn, which is just Hand of Scylla. Heals all allies based on 25% of the damage that you dealt to the boss or dealt to whoever, and when healing overflows, you grant shield for 2 turns. Now, shield strength is 50% of overflow healing, and grants all allies speed up for 2 turns. Now, if an ally's HP is greater than 80%, you also grant them recovery for 2 turns, which is kind of odd because it's usually the case where your Espers need healing when they are below 80%, but you know, whatever works. So this is a skill with 3 turns cooldown, with 2 turns of speed up, 2 turns of recovery, and 2 turns of shield as well. This is insane. And of course, on top of that, she also has a pretty decent first skill which has a triple hit and a 45% chance of dispelling 1 buff on each hit. And to top it off, she has a captain ability which is 25% ally speed buff in most of the important PvE content. So in terms of relics, here are whatever that you should expect, right? I'm just going to be running her with Windwalker. You can go with Astral Witchcraft, that works as well. But just for the sake of consistency, I'm going to work with Windwalker. So the way you want to build her is just, you know, HP here, or okay, HP defense if you're like me, and speed. So just a lot of speed, a lot of tankiness, right? So plus 28,000 HP, plus 1,500 defense, and plus 189, which is a little bit of a stretch, especially since she is not like my main Esper by any stretch of the imagination. But right now, I do feel like she is definitely one of those Espers that I would definitely advise you to invest a little bit more into. So whenever you see something like this, definitely try to complete your R6 Meredith. This is like the shortcut way for you to obtain one of the best PvE Espers right now. So today we're going to take a look at Desolate Lands, and in particular, there are 2 places that we want to look at, right? So the first is going to be Shadowgale, the second is going to be Shadowstream. So this is the lineup that I'm using right now. I have Meredith over here, obviously, and I also have Clara, and here are her stats. And I might not recommend the Ocean Waves, but just because I use her in other PvE content, that's why I kind of like her on Ocean Waves. And Avatara is quite important because her first skill is able to heal a couple of your other allies and purify some of the debuffs as well, which is whatever this boss is all about. And then of course we have Chloe, who is also on Ocean Waves, but I would recommend you to run her with Ocean Waves because in most cases, the way I use her, she kind of needs that Ocean Wave proc in order for her to learn her third skill again in the state that it actually matters, right? And here is Catherine with pretty decent speed as well, and blah 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 blah. So the Avatara is not so important. I'm not sure why she's on Avatara. I don't need her on that. And my Dahlia, who is no longer the fastest Esper on my lineup anymore. So here are my Dahlia stats, imagine that. So just very simple, speedy, and that's about it. And of course, I am running Li Guang as well for the extra AP gain on the third skill, which is pretty nice. And she does a lot of damage as well, which is always helpful. So we do have the 25% speed lead because of Meredith over here. But one interesting thing is that you do not necessarily need Clara here because we have a lot of heals. Instead, another alternative that works out a lot is actually Fabrice. So with the changes to Fabrice, especially his Resonance Kit, he becomes a really good powerhouse, especially for Shadowgale. So take a look at his first skill, right? It already lends recovery effects, which stacks by the way, so there is no limit to a number of recovery buffs that you can have. So this is instantly 1 buff. And second skill here, Love Sonata, he has 1 extra buff, 1 extra attack buff. And on top of that, he grants all allies speed up for 1 turn as well. And his third skill grants invincibility and immunity to all allies, which is like insane. So there is a lot of buffs on his kit with extremely low cooldowns as well. So Fabrice is actually one of the better choices. But for my showcase, I'm going to be running Clara because I am more consistent with Clara right now with the current setup that I'm using. Alright, so let's take a look at how this team works. So thanks to the addition of Meredith in my lineup, I no longer need to run Sender. And the reason why I don't really want to run Sender anymore is because I've lowered his speed significantly, which means that he's not so relevant in this content right now. And the reason for that is because I'm using Sender in APAP. So that is going to affect my runs a little bit. So I have to replace him. So instead of Sender, I'm running Li Guang. And of course, I still have the speed lead because of Meredith over here. And Meredith is just insane, right? She has so many buffs that is just perfect for this particular fight. She has 3 buffs on her third skill alone, with a cooldown of just 3 turns because the boss will never be below 80% HP. That's how this boss works, right? He has infinite HP. So whenever she uses a third skill, right? Let's take a look at it again. So whenever she uses a third skill, you'll notice that there is a Hand of Scylla cooldown reduction or something like that. So hopefully you get to see it here and not be blocked by some of the 2D sprites here. Okay, Hand of Scylla, there you go. The cooldown was reduced by 1 turn. So that's pretty insane. She's just gonna keep throwing it like every 3 turns. And her second skill, while pretty much shit, it does also count as 2 very unique buffs, right? It has a defense buff, which I do not have on this lineup, and it also has the crit damage reduction buff, I think. Yeah. So 2 extra buffs, which is also quite helpful. And as you can see here, this is the part where we are just throwing a lot of buffs, and that's where she comes in very, very handy with the speed up, with the regeneration, with the shield as well. Although using Clara here kinda wastes a little bit of the shield buff, because as you can see, Clara actually topped off our shield, but it didn't actually reduce our debuff counter, because you cannot remove the debuff counter by topping up your shield. Similarly, you cannot remove the debuff counter by reapplying your attack buff, for example, right? So it is a bit of a double how should I put it? It's a wasted buff basically. So instead of Clara, like I said, you can try running Fabrice, he's pretty decent. And you can also try running Jinyu Yao. Jinyu Yao does not stack anything at all, right? She just dispels the debuffs that you have whenever she takes a turn, which is really good. So I may not necessarily recommend Chloe all the time, even though she's very powerful. I wouldn't really recommend her all the time because she, as you can see, right, she still has 5 of the debuff stacks. And the reason for that is because she lengthens the buffs on herself, which is also the same reason why I am not using Alice for my lineup. But I know a lot of people use Alice, I just can't seem to make Alice work, I'm not sure why. But as long as you run Espers that lengthens buffs on your team, that kind of sucks a little bit. Because if your buffs do not expire, you will not be able to replace it, and therefore it would not tick down the debuff counter. So I think right now we are almost at EX++. I don't think we can hit EX++. We are so far away from EX++, oh my god. So I kind of have to work on the tweaking a little bit, which is, there's a lot of work. There's a lot of work to be done for this team. But I just want to showcase that Meredith is extremely useful for this particular fight. And I think Espers like Sienna, while she used to be really good in the past, I don't think she's that good right now because now her buffs last for 3 turns. And the problem with that is it takes you a lot of turns in order for you to get rid of the speed up buff and attack buff, which means you cannot like keep reapplying them with like other Espers. So that's like one of the problems with using Sienna right now with her changes to her kit. Okay, so EX+, unfortunately, sometimes we do get lucky and we do get a better score, but you know what? It is what it is. Now, for Shadowstream, so we are going to be running Meredith again, of course, as usual, because this is a Meredith showcase. So here are her stats again, in case you skip to this part. And we are also be using Li Guang once more, which I really like. So I like the fact that I'm using her in multiple areas. So for example, I'm using her in Fafnir, I'm using a Shadowstream and Shadowgale as well. And here are the stats of Gaius. And Gaius is kind of important, I think. Without him, you might not be able to get a perfect score, or rather a perfect multiplier, because he does double his turns a lot. So if you're not going to be using Gaius, there is not a lot of option left for you to get an Esper that is able to take, I think, like 6 or 7 turns within the phase that needs to be taken, which is like the middle phase. And then of course we'll be using Asenath here, and the reason why she is so good is not only does she increase the AP of your entire team when she uses this skill, the Lotus Mark, right, when triggered, which is when the boss attacks your entire team, that actually pushes her AP by 100%, which means that she gets an additional turn. So this skill is actually really good, so that's why she's over here. And I'm using Asenath because she cycles herself. Of course, you don't have to use Asenath, you can also use Espers like Fabrice, like I talked about earlier on. So Fabrice is also able to give extra turns with his second skill, and on top of that, he also has a speed buff, he also has an attack buff, a lot of good stuff on his one kit. And of course, finally, we will be using Alice for this team just because she has the ability to lengthen buffs, which means that she will be able to lengthen the speed buff for my entire team. And as you can see, her speed is pretty high and it staggers as opposed to the other Espers here. So for example, Anesidora, she has only like 213 speed. As for Meredith, she has like 289, and for Alice, she has like 300 plus. So their speeds are all very different, which means that they're all going to deploy their speed buff at very different intervals, which means that our speed uptime is actually pretty high. It's almost at 100%. So without further ado, let's take a look at how this team works. So essentially, right, there are just 4 Espers here whose role is just to take a lot of turns and just to improve our multiplier. And the 2 Espers that are essential for dealing damage is just going to be Li Guang and Gaius. So we just need 2 Espers, and hopefully that is enough. In addition with the speed up buff, right, to deal all the damage that we need to do when the combo is hopefully at like 18 times. But there are a couple of Espers here that may not make it to like clearing their full debuff stack, which means they may not be able to take like 6 or 7 turns. So those espers are, believe it or not, Meredith. She's actually one of them. I think she's just missing like one more stack, one more turn, and Li Guang as well. These two espers, they tend to have a lot of difficulty in taking more turns for some reason. So I might need to increase the speed a little bit by maybe like 25% more speed. Yeah, it's a lot more speed that is required. So as you can see, now the stacks are on us, the pink color stacks. So we just need to take multiple turns in order to get rid of it. Simple as that. Gaius should have no issues whatsoever getting rid of it, because whenever he transforms, that is considered 2 different turns. And Li Guang, I have no idea why, man. She has self-AP control, I mean self-AP gain, but it's just not enough. Yeah, as you can see, right, the Lotus Mark did trigger, and that pushed Esena to take her turn. So very nice. Okay, transform and attack, and that is 2 stacks gone. And I think, yeah, Gaius should be able to take an additional turn afterwards, like very soon. He is just right behind the boss. But we should be fine because we have the speed up buff. So I'm just hoping for a 16 times multiplier. I think we can do a 16 times. Can we? Can we? We did 18 times! Oh, wow! Very nice. Fantastic. But now we just need to make sure that our DPS is in check. Because sometimes our DPS can go completely off, depending on RNG. Fetching fire, okay, good. Decent damage. And we just need Gaius to transform, which I think he should be able to... Yeah, he should be able to go back into his God King state very soon. Yeah, we can definitely lap the boss, so that's fine. And Li Guang just needs to keep throwing all her DPS, like just keep attacking, and going and going and going, and that's like very important. And at least, okay, so her position, right, Li Guang, her position is there for a good reason, and that's because whenever Alice attacks, there is a good chance that she will get Li Guang to attack with her first skill, which then pushes Li Guang's AP a little bit by 30%. So that's what I'm counting on. And I think we got an EX++, right? This is definitely EX++. We are well in the territory of EX++ right now. Yeah, for sure, for sure. If you can hit 600,000, that's like for sure. Yep, 11 almost 5 million. So that's it, EX++. So this is the power of Meredith, right? She has the speed lead, she has the speed buff, she has a lot of buffs, which is really good for Shadowgale. She has a lot in her kit, right? She has regeneration, which stacks, very importantly, and she has a shield effect as well, which is not much, but it's easy for it to deplete because it's just a very tiny shield. It's not the same as like Clara, for example. Her overheal is not that much. But anyway, that's it for this video. Hope you guys enjoyed today's content. If you did, let me know what else you want to see. Oh my god, is that that's our top score. Let me know what else you guys want to see, and I'll try my best to get it out for you guys as well. What else would you like me to showcase for you guys? Anyway, with that said, hope you guys enjoyed today's content. If you did, don't forget to leave a thumbs up. It really helps the channel, and subscribe for more Dislyte content. Now with that said, this has been Derry Free to Play, and as always, I will see you in the next video.